Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Welcome back. Well, as I mentioned, we have Joan Milliman here live. Well, welcome to our studio. It's been forever.
It has.
So happy to have you back.
Over a year.
I know. What has it been? Almost 16 months now.
I know.
It's been a long time. And, you know, we've interviewed you via Zoom, and I'm so excited that we've been able to do that to kind of keep up to date of what's going on. So today you have a Golden Rain Foundation update and regarding candidacies.
Right. I just thought today would be appropriate because everybody's looking to be a board member, I hope.
Yeah.
The nominations are open. The candidates can pick up their, their applications up downstairs, second floor.
Okay.
But you can't come up, so just ask for it at the desk.
Oh, good. So they have it at the front desk on the first floor of the community services building?
No, you have to ask for it at the front desk in the community service building, and they will get one to you. So.
Okay. How many vacancies are there on GRF?
It's not for GRF. It's
it's
for Third and United.
Oh, pardon me. Okay, it's for
Third and United first, and once those boards are elected, then we also have the GRF, which will be in September.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
but this is right now. We have Third and
for Third and United.
So the mutuals are open.
Okay. And what are some things? I mean, there are responsibilities, of course, and you have to be careful. In fact, I think it was last week when I was at the Equestrian Center, there was a woman there who was also a board member, and I had asked her, I said, boy, I'd really like to talk to you about the Equestrian Center, and she said, it's probably not a good idea because they want to be careful about what it is that they say because you just never know what to say, when to say it. So there's obviously some legalities there.
Well, there is. It's because the board itself speaks for the board.
Gotcha.
Individual board members don't usually speak for the board unless they're talking about an established policy, which that's the way the board speaks, through their policies and procedures and decisions that we make. So that's why she might not have talked to you.
Well, no, that's good because obviously she was following the rules of what is expected of her, right? So,
exactly.
So you've got a couple of things that you want to talk to regarding those legal responsibilities. So authority of the board. So what does that entail?
Well, basically, the board is responsible for oversight of every aspect of the association, everything. I mean, the boards have the ultimate authority, not management, but the boards. And so they ensure that the community abides by the laws and regulations of the state, of the federal government. And why are they doing all this? To make it a comfortable and happy place to live.
Right.
And so they're also responsible for residential conduct and how common spaces are used and so on and so on. So it's a big responsibility, but that's also why they have to speak as a group.
Right.
And the loyalty from a board member really goes to the corporation first, because if the corporation didn't act, we'd all be, we act on behalf of everybody.
Right. Right.
But it doesn't eliminate the individual, and that's confusing because the boards have set up places where you can go as an individual to get your problems resolved. United, for example, has a whole committee that talks about residents' problems. And in fact, you can go to any committee meeting that is your focus, something like if it's maintenance and construction you're worried about or landscaping you need to have fixed. Those are places you can talk when members speak.
Right.
And so they've set up places where you can go. It's also online.
Well, right. I mean, there's lots of things that are online these days. So in terms of, so obviously you have different boards for different areas. So you've got the Third, which is responsible for the Third Mutual.
Condos, right.
And then you have United, which is responsible
for the co-ops.
Okay, and then you have the GRF, which is overall.
For the common grounds.
Right.
And the clubhouses and swimming pools and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's and it's like a city. We've talked about this before. It's like running a city because there's so many people here that you have to almost have different. I mean, have they ever had just one board as opposed to three boards?
No, they've had as many as 30.
Oh my gosh.
Well, when Laguna Woods Leisure World began, every time they do a new building section, they had a new board.
Got it.
And they finally got it down to 2 housing boards. Well,
Gotcha.
3 with the towers.
You're right.
So we have 3 housing boards.
Yes.
Finally.
That's
but
good.
It's a huge place.
It is a huge place,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, at least they've narrowed it down to have. And I wanted to ask that question because we have so many new people that have moved in here. They don't necessarily know the differences, or they don't. I mean, there's a lot of new folks, so and they don't they don't know the history, so that's good. All right, so fiduciary responsibilities. Like, what does it mean when you say duty of care and the business judgment rule?
Well, duty of care is to, a board member has to make decisions all the time, and they have to be informed. So it's a good idea to read the agenda before the meeting and digest it. In fact, the boards set the agenda the 2 weeks before until you know what's going to be on it.
Okay.
But when it comes to you, you have a lot of information to go through, which some has been generated by management and some by consultants, some by legal. And you need to know that stuff.
Okay.
Before you go to the meeting.
Right.
At least be familiar with it. You may not know it. So that's part of the duty of care. And the business judgment rules basically means that you have done what any good person would do in good faith and in the best interest of the association, as long as you've taken those reasonable steps that a person in a similar circumstance would. If you're buying a refrigerator, you research it,
I gotcha.
for example. And so same with here. That's
Okay. Well,
duty
that's
of
good.
care.
I mean, you obviously have to have some basic knowledge of what is expected of you, right? And then, like you said, do your research. I mean, I don't always know what my subject matter is until I've actually done the research on who the person is. So
That's
you always
true.
have to be prepared. How about duty of loyalty?
Well, board members are loyal, first of all, to the corporation. Now, this sounds funny because they're working for all of us, for all the residents, but what they're doing are setting big things, policies, procedures, rules and regulations, and so on. So their first loyalty needs to be to the corporation. Also, when the board makes a decision, their loyalty must be with the board. Stay with it. Even if you disagree, during the discussion you might disagree, but it's not right afterwards to go around grumping about the decision that was made.
Yeah.
And that's not appropriate, and board members don't do that.
Right, okay. Good to know, because, I'm sure there's a lot of emotion that goes into something, and if they feel very strongly about it, it may cause them some angst.
It can, and later, if you find that there is a problem and you can bring it again to the board, the board just works together and they speak as one voice, and that's pretty important to know.
Yeah.
We have to do that because of what we set up, what we're destined to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
For the good of the people.
For the good of the people, for the good of everybody. Yes.
Exactly. And duty of obedience and duty to act.
Well, boards are required to perform certain duties by law, and so you have to follow the law. The law prohibits the board from making decisions or acting on matters they do not have authority to do.
Right.
And so the authority of the board comes from its obligations under state laws, as well as those granted in the governing documents, specifically articles of incorporation, the bylaws, the CC&Rs, rules and regulations, and the GRF trust agreement. The trust applies to GRF, but the CC&Rs apply to the other 3 boards.
Right. So you need to peruse those to make sure you understand what's going on.
You need to look at them regularly. You don't have to memorize them, but you need to know what's in them as a board member.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there's lots of committees, of course, as you mentioned, underneath boards. So you certainly could participate on a committee as opposed to taking a board position prior to taking a board position, right?
Right, and committees are really valuable because what they do is the deep investigation of all the matters in their respective areas. Well, let's do maintenance and construction, for example. They do a lot of investigation of what the needs are, and then they investigate what possible contractors would come, and there's a lot, usage, everything, but that's what the committee does. We don't have to do it in the board. When it comes to the board, the committee's made some recommendations. Here's the way we think would be best, and the reason we think it's best is So they take advice from management and legal as well as their own research, but they do some really interesting research.
Right, I know, and I like the fact that there's all those different committees for each board, because then, like I said, you can kind of get your feet wet and then go on to do more, or you can do both.
Well, you have to do both. When you're
Oh,
a board
you do?
member,
Ah.
you are a member of at least one committee.
Oh, okay.
If not 2 or 3, depending on your
So that,
on your president.
It's a responsibility. So let me ask you, management's role, what are you referring to there?
Well, you know, VMS is our management company, village management, and they are responsible to all the boards. So they've got what, 4 boards,
Right.
plus their own, the village management board, which is not the same as the others. So they're always working on behalf of the community, and what management does is to carry out the procedures and recommendations and decisions that boards have made. And they also, an interesting thing they do is to give advice, professional advice, because they're all professionals, that's why we hired them. And so they give us advice on best practices and other kinds of business advice. They also work together with the boards to provide training and seminars and mentoring to help familiarize board members, especially the new ones, with the governing documents, financial procedures, big one.
Yep.
Parliamentary procedure.
Oh, yeah. Which
and
we know
more.
how much you love.
Yes, yes. So the VMS staff works for the CEO, Jeff in this case. And the staff answers to Jeff. They don't answer to the board members. The board has no standing, or the members have no standing with the staff, except they, you know, we work together to understand what's going on. So only the CEO answers for how the VMS is doing.
Right, right. And he has been here, excuse me, many times, so we've seen a lot of him, which is great. And he helps fill in everything that's going on.
So the management company carries it out. They're the legs.
That's right. That's right. Now, we have a meeting that's coming up tomorrow. It's a meet and greet for anyone who would like to be a candidate. Tell me about what's going to happen there.
Well, you're going to hear much of what you just heard today. We're going to have a slide presentation of these particular elements, and we're also going to have questions and answers. And we'll have some handouts available, including the schedules for applying for candidacy and the points that are made on the slides.
Oh, okay, good. So now, will there be, I'm assuming there'll be board members there so people can ask lots of questions.
There will be, I believe the presidents will be there.
Okay.
And so there'll be questions that, you know, it's crazy because if you don't know anything when you're going in, you'll have lots of questions and maybe you don't know even what question to ask.
Well, right. And it
So-
can be very overwhelming because there's a lot of information, like you mentioned already. So,
I just don't want people to be afraid. It sounds like it's a lot.
Yeah.
And what you do is you dip your toe in the water, you know, and you begin to find out where things are and what it's about. It's taken me several years to understand more that being on the board is not a game.
right.
And also that I am a volunteer, an elected volunteer, and we're neighbors, you know.
Right.
What we do on the boards is for the neighbors. And so, yes, people can complain to us and we will tell them where they can find the information, how to proceed, but we will not necessarily make a whole policy and procedure based on their request.
Right, right. But nonetheless, you will take their suggestions and you'll bring it back to the,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
board and discuss it. And that's why you're there.
Suggestions and questions, we absolutely research.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you. I'm so glad you were able to make it in today.
Me too. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Nice
We'll see you
to
again next time.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. All right. And when we come back, we will have Sunshine Lute. So stick around.